And I got one moment when we all felt as one. Hello, this is Carrie O'Donnell from Tarot Soul Writer. And if you would like a personal reading with me, please go to my website, tarotsoulwriter.com, and book a personal reading with me. I am back for the ending of the story, December 2024. But before we go into the story, I would like to discuss my Tarot Soul Writing group that is now posted on my webpage. If you're not interested in Tarot Soul Writing groups and or classes, please go down to the timestamp and begin the reading. For those of you who are interested, I've decided to do things a little differently this time. In the past, we did 10 consecutive classes, and each class had a theme and built on the previous class, and we stayed together as one group and we build those relationships. I thought it worked really well, but it was really hard to sustain 10 weeks for a lot of people. There were people who would go in and out because of people's schedules or finances. So I knew I wanted to make a change this time around. So I'm creating a Tarot Soul Writing group. The class will go for about an hour and a half, but it will be very self-contained. We'll build relationships within that class as quickly as we can. I will focus on one theme. There will be tips and tricks for each class, and we will do both small group and large group readings, both to practice our automatic writing, to get used to working with the cards, and to do readings for one another. So it's really developed to be ongoing. You may not be an expert automatic writer after an hour and a half class, but you are going to get your feet wet, and you can sign up for the group Tarot Soul Writing classes as many times as you want. So if you want to do once a month, great. If you would like to do once a week, awesome. If you would like to meet more than that, because I do plan to add more time slots as they begin to fill up on different days of the week, that would be awesome as well. And I'm going to try to make each class a little bit different each time. My guides are saying that just the idea of having a different chemistry each time, a different combination of people, makes it unique and makes it special. So I'm going to go with that. And that's how I'm going to run them this spring. I'll do a reevaluation right before the summer session. And hopefully this works out better for everyone. It's $25 per class. Just go to my website, tarotsoulwriter.com. This time, press Tarot Soul Writing Classes. You will see a Book Now button, and it will show you the slots available for upcoming dates. It's a great way to build community, and I hope you join us. And now, let's get on to the reading for December 2024. I'll be honest, it was a short transmission. I got a few different groups, basically what was happening in the aftermath of the election. And then I got a long concluding message from my guides, which I thought was kind of interesting. So let's begin with my first group, MAGA. As Democrats celebrate, many Americans mourn and grieve. They are filled with disappointment. They see their ignorance and limitations. They are in fear. I'm hearing stages of grief. So I actually had to look that up on the internet. What are the stages of grief? I know I learned it in school at some point, but I just couldn't remember. So I guess these are the stages of grief: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. I heard that MAGA is moving through denial and anger, and they are moving on to bargaining and depression in December. So this is how I broke it down. Trump didn't do anything wrong. It was the Democrats. Donald Trump will save us. There are tears. I hear, you are leaving the legacy of abuse and rage. This is a turning point. let go of if only. But he betrayed us. They deceived us. Traitor. Money gathers together behind the scenes. Those Republicans who remain still want to belong. They still want to be relevant. Deals are cut. Money exchanges hands. There is no hope for some of them now. I get fears of abandonment. Nobody will pay attention to me anymore. Nobody will help me. It was so much better in the past. There is deep regret. No acceptance for most MAGAs in December. And then I remembered this quote that a colleague of mine had painted across the top. All truth passes through 3 stages. First, it is ridiculed. Second, it is violently opposed. And third, it is accepted as self-evident. I thought that was really fitting here. It just popped into my head. And it was a sense of them coming to terms with truth. And it really is following stages of grief, or the 3 stages of truth. It was really interesting. So I feel like you're going to see that kind of behavior from the average person who identifies as MAGA. Then I got those who voted for Biden. I can't really say Democrats because it was some Democrats and some people who are not Democrats that voted for Biden. People who identify as independent, people who identify as Republican and had a protest vote. And I wrote, the rest of the country feels that America and its traditions and values have been saved. And then I wrote this freedom is your inheritance. Like those who have come before you, you were tested and have saved democracy for now. And in another voice, as if I'm hearing the people, I heard, we can create a country that will benefit future generations. Very enthusiastically. But then there was a warning. I wrote, the fox is still in the henhouse. They will steal your hard-earned crops if you let them. They are cunning. They are selfish. There is a conflict between hope and suspicion among the American people. Keep being that city on a hill, that beacon of hope. It's as if Spirit was saying, hang in there, Americans. Don't lose hope. You can still be that beacon of hope for the rest of the world. And then I heard them in the collective. Can we trust the government? Can we trust the Democrats? Will they finally do something with their power? So there's a lot of cynicism, even among the people who pushed a vote for Biden. It was almost like this is our only hope. It has to be him. And now are they going to blow it? Did we do all of this work for nothing? There's a lot of worry bubbling underneath the surface. Immigration. I heard weary travelers and then wrote, sometimes you just have to trust, have high hopes. And I got a double meaning there. First, I had just gotten done reading on the cynicism of, I guess, the Biden voters. And I felt like they were saying, Americans are really weary. We've been through a lot. We are weary travelers, since 2020. I mean, first the Trump years, then COVID, then losing the House and all that, and then the election and everything that went on this year. We're tired. We're absolutely weary. But they were saying, I thought in this line, that we need to trust that the government will work. At the same time I was writing that, I was also getting an image of immigrants, literally weary travelers at the border, at the Mexican border. And I kind of felt like they were unable to enter the country. So I think in December, there could be more security at the border or a temporary shutdown, something that's like a pause in order to fix something, to make something better. And it seemed as if Spirit was trying to give a voice of hope to those who would like to enter the US, legally, of course, but can't in December, the world. As you know from my October video, I felt like the world was really going through some stuff. I mean, it really begins with Putin no longer being here. And then there's just chaos. You've got two major wars. You've got one in the Middle East with Israel and Palestine. And then you have the war in Ukraine. And that's had its highs and its lows, especially with America not giving money to Ukraine like they used to. And then in October, I really got a mess. The world has gone through some stuff. And I know Biden was back and forth in October working with peace talks and trying to get things settled. Like, everybody needs to calm down. I did get a sense that there might have been a major environmental event or a very bad bombing in the Ukraine or the Ukraine-Russian border. I got that imagery when I wrote this. I start, much of the world is in pain. As we squeak out a new beginning, I see a burned landscape. It was it was charred, like when the trees are charred and there wasn't much of anything left, just crumbled buildings. And it looked like a really stark scene from World War II after a city had been leveled. So I knew there was something major that had happened there. Then I wrote war, famine, hearts ripped in two, illness, suffering. It didn't have to be this way. We chose this. So I feel like whatever happened here in this sort of burnt or charred field was not something that had to happen. It was something we allowed to happen. Like, we could have stopped it for whatever reason, as a collective, allowed it to happen. I just want to say, I don't think this is nuclear, or at least not a nuclear bomb. It's either a weapon that's very destructive, or it could be an environmental disaster, like a combination of things in which there's some sort of a meltdown or some sort of chemical situation. And then I got the number 3. And I felt like the number 3 was important. There was a trinity there. Like 3, I wrote like 3 countries, 3 major conflicts. But the conflicts didn't really make sense to me because I feel like there are 2 major conflicts. So unless there's another conflict that pops up that creates a trinity, it could be that. But I was thinking more maybe at Russia, China, and the United States. And there was some sense here in December that they had to reconcile ideas. And then I got a lot of talks with NATO allies. I feel like maybe Biden had to take a time out in November because of the election. But in December, he's right back out there. There's like secret talks with the allies and how are we going to do this? And then there's a talk with, I almost want to say, the big 3. Whatever's happening in Russia right now, what's going on there, what can we negotiate with you? And I think they're open to discussing things with Russia right now because I don't get Putin there. And it's very much connected to Biden being president. It's almost like the world is saying, okay, we were all waiting. It looks like Biden's going to be president. So, okay, China, we need to talk because you're not going to get away with any shenanigans.
Uh-oh.
And Russia, what direction are you going in? Because we need to talk. We need to talk about the Ukraine. We need to talk about expanding into other countries, especially NATO countries. We need to talk about what's happening with your own people. What's going on here, Russia?
What's the matter with you?
It's time to talk because Trump's not going to save you. Putin's not going to save you. None of these plans are going to save you, right? This is the reality. So I feel like these talks about how the world will be organized now come up because of the American election and because of something horrific that really happened leading up to the American election. And then I got a really interesting bit of information. I wrote, America shares the world's pain. And I got one moment when we all felt as one. So I was wondering if it was like a prayer or a moment of silence for the world as a whole. Could be Christmas. It could be like a Christmas prayer or a Christmas moment. I just got this one moment with so many of the people in the world. It was global. We're all focusing on being one. So I'll look forward to seeing what that is, but it could be something around the holidays, around Christmas. The courts. Small piece of information, but I got data to process, paperwork, forms. I saw a court system getting their ducks in a row. So I felt like this was the Supreme Court. It's kind of like saying, uh-oh, I better get my act together because of the Biden presidency. Reality check. So there was a lot of, let's get the data together. Everything needs to be above board. It's as if they were trying to clean up their image. That could be another way to put it. And I also felt that there were new prosecutions being organized, cases that were getting ready to unfold. And that also had something to do with the paperwork and the process. There is definitely some trials that are going to be launched in December or getting ready to launch in the new year. And lots of preparation for that since the election is now over. It's all connected to this idea that Biden's in, it's official, and it's as if everybody gets back to work. Okay, let's go. Then I got the press. I wrote, journalism is under fire. And I don't think this is just Fox News. This is all of them. MSNBC, CNN, Fox, all of the cable news networks. Heck, I even want to throw in social media. There's a lot of talk about what's going on with journalism and how we can actually get true information. And then I get people talking about polls. So this might be the sort of jumping board into what's going on in our media and how can we fix it. Because I get people saying, why aren't they getting it right? What is being manipulated and why? There's something about polls again. I would not be surprised if before the election, they said the Republicans were going to win or something to that effect, and then they didn't. This could also be about smaller candidates, people for the Senate or people for the House. And they're trying to figure out, this is like the second time the polls are not working. So why? And then that kind of leads to this whole thing with journalism. Let's examine journalism and journalists. Let's examine media and media corporations. Let's examine what's going on behind the scenes. I don't see this as bad news. I see this as good news because something needs to be done there. The stock market. I get a rubber ball. This is what I'm seeing. And it bounces. And it was bouncing up and down really high, like when you throw a rubber ball. And it bounces and then it bounces a little shorter and a little shorter. And then I got it gently bouncing and then rolling on the floor. So this is a metaphor for the stock market. I think the big bounce was right before the election. I had mentioned that in my last video. In December, it's like it's still trying to find, it's bouncing, but just shorter. So there's still little bounces and then it stabilizes at the end of December. And believe it or not, I don't think this is all election or any kind of manipulation this time. I think this has to do with the world economy. Like I said, I feel like the world in the last 2 to 3 months has taken a big hit. And this is affecting countries economically, with trade, all of it. We have our own troubles over here, but Europe, Middle East, they're struggling. And this is affecting the world economy. This is affecting trade, everything. And I think that we will feel a few bounces there in the American stock market. Then I wrote, we are not in balance yet. So this might take a little time. At this point, I did ask about Inauguration Day. Now, Inauguration Day is in January 2025. It's not in December. But I know there will be planning for the inauguration, and I felt like I couldn't leave the year 2024 without knowing, are we going to have another January 6th? I have PTSD, and I wanted to know. So I got this message. I got the planning for the inauguration, and I also saw people coming together in joy and happiness. So good news. However, I also got anger, rage, and I wrote plots of treachery. But I also got that these pockets of unrest will be contained. So my guides seemed to really feel that they would be contained. I wasn't getting anything like January 6th. And then I got something really strange. It felt like a virus or a flu. So I wasn't sure what they meant by that or how this would affect the inauguration. So the only thing I can think of is Biden's health might be in question for Inauguration Day. Maybe he caught a little bit of a flu. So they're adjusting activities based on his overall health. Or there could be a wave of a really bad flu, like a bad flu season that could affect the inauguration, people gathering together. So that could affect some activities. But what I didn't get is insurrection. I didn't get violence. I didn't get anything like that. I feel like those pockets are contained on the outside of Washington. And I'm very relieved to have gotten that message. And that leads to what my guides really want to talk about, because I just saw a few of the political things, but they seem to want to talk. I had a whole page of writing that I transcribed and kind of pulled together the best I could. And this is what they said. Their theme was the word wholeness. That's what they wanted to talk about, wholeness. There is regeneration in the world now, right down to a cellular level. Be cautious during this time. When stress and worry press down, retreat and strength. Center yourself, balance yourself. The light has come in, and it shines on the parts of you that remain in shadow, hidden. See it, recognize it, accept it. It belongs to all of us. I feel like what they're saying in that part is just because Biden won the election doesn't mean that all stress is gone. There's still going to be a learning curve here. There's a new beginning. New beginnings are shaky. And there are going to be ups and downs. And we're still humans on the planet Earth, and we're going to experience those ups and downs. And they want us to remain centered. And they're trying to explain with the light and the shadows that on a macro level, the corruption is going to be illuminated. You are going to learn the truth as we move into 2025 about the Trump years, about the corruption, about connections, allegedly, with Russia. It's all going to unfold with real evidence. It's as if what was hidden in the shadows, as they say, will come to light. But on the micro level, on each individual, people are also going to be doing their own self-evaluation, especially people who may have followed Trump. Those shadows I got in the beginning, that they see their ignorance and limitations, that many of them do feel betrayed. These things are coming up to the light to examine, and we're supposed to see it and move through it and accept it and understand that this all belongs to all of us. And then I wrote, the sun's rays stream forth on the planet, through your heart center, then back into the world. Allow this energetic process. Be humble. I heard Christ's words, I can of mine own self do nothing. So I had to look it up. Basically, I think it's when he is on trial because of breaking rules on the Sabbath and also saying that he had powers that were similar to God. And I think he had to defend it or show evidence of it. This is not the context in which I took those words, but I know when he said that, he was saying that he was submitting to God's will. And that's kind of what I wrote, submitting to God's will. And then I was led to a book from one of my tarot cards that said, we do nothing even in loving. It is love that loves through us. And then wrote, to be whole, we need to all submit to what is right. We need to submit to love. What would love do? That is God's will. No one man or woman can do it all. We are one. We are whole. It's almost like the conclusion of the yearly story is a lesson, right? The guides are saying, have you learned your lesson, humans? You can't just follow one person. Not one man, one strong man has all the answers. Our strength and our wisdom come from wholeness. We need to be whole within ourselves so we don't feel a need to have to give away our power to another human who we feel will save us. But we're also going to be whole together, collectively, because it's collectively in our wholeness where we can solve many of our problems. We grow into wholeness. You are spiritual warriors, they said. This is why you are here. Your ego is not your strength. Do not feed your inferior nature. Become the master of your life anew. Live in truth. There is a new beginning here. You have a clean slate. There will be new opportunities, people, and projects. Change is frightening. All will be well. Keep moving forward. There is a new way to look at the world's problems. There will be a shift. Please confide in each other. Don't let your inner turmoil bubble up. Talking makes some things less scary. Remember, peace, unconditional love, empathy. And that was the end of transmission. And I thought it was interesting, that idea of confiding in each other and talking with each other, especially when we feel angst or turmoil, as they put it. I think that's what we do here in our spiritual community. Coming together, listening to one another, talking to each other in the chats, supporting one another. That's part of what we're doing here. And I kind of felt like the guides wanted to say, you know what, keep doing that. Keep making connections with like-minded people that you trust with your inner thoughts and your fears and your anxieties. And that is not only my December 2024 reading, but that is the end of my series, The Year 2024. I know most readers finish their 2024 predictions by the second week in January. Leave it to me, Carrie O'Donnell, to take to today, which is actually, I'm filming this on March 20th. It's taken me a little while. I started in November and here we are. But I felt like it really worked out well. I like this story format and I am going to begin 2025 next November. And we'll go through this whole process for the next year. Now, what will I be doing in the meantime? Basically what I've been doing before. I think I am going to do readings based on topics. And they'll be smaller than these overviews that run sometimes 30 minutes. So I'm hoping to be 15 minutes or less. I'm going to base each topical video on your questions. So each Friday, I'm going to ask on my community board, what are the questions that you would like to know about? You can post them there weekly. And I'm also working diligently on our 2020 story. We are going to be moving into our first edit where I'm pulling out aspects of all your interviews, and that's starting in April. So I'll be working hard on that, plus your personal readings. So Tarot Soul Writer will be busy. Look for me on the community board. I'll look forward to your questions. And if you like this video, please like, subscribe, share with all your friends. And until my next video, you have a great day. Bye-bye.
Left behind, left to find one another, face the sun, fear no one, 'cause we are all one, 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 we are all.
And don't forget, the future is in your hands. Vote.
Pick me up, yeah, moonchild, put me into overflow, crash into